Welcome, fellow seekers of challenge and triumph, to the SufferSooner podcast. Join us on a journey where ordinary souls embark on extraordinary endeavors. From the relentless grind of gravel to the punishing gauntlet that is triathlon, we've tasted our fair share of suffering. So fellow endurance warriors, let's lace up our shoes, strap on our goggles, and dive headfirst into the challenge, knowing that with every step, stroke, and pedal forward, we grow stronger together.
All right, guys, welcome. Episode 66, the Unbound 200 post-race, the wrap-up. Yeah.
Whew.
How you feeling, Danny?
What a day, huh?
Yeah.
What a day. So the best part of Unbound is
when it's over.
when it's over. and you realize that you forget to put sunblock on at the start of the day. And so I've got these nice tan lines that are burn lines, and then I got my chin strap in here,
burned into
my face.
It's like the meme of like, how do you know you're having a good summer?
Yeah,
just those tan lines from all the cycling you're doing.
And the worst part though is my lip between the wind and the sun. Like my lip got burned, and now it feels like everything that touches it just hurts. So,
oh man,
I know. I should just cry more, I guess. But what a day. Maybe before we get into it, we should talk a little bit about the before the event.
Yeah, the volunteering and the experience and the expo and stuff.
Yeah. Second year doing the volunteer work, right? We're fortunate we live close enough that we can drive down there and donate some time. And it's really fun watching the expo come together, isn't it? Like we did this last year and it felt like it was really busy. This year I didn't feel like it was quite as busy, and it seemed like things just were done faster. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it was a great time and a chance to meet some really good people that do all the work behind the scenes. And there's such a massive difference between putting on an event like this and then putting on a local event in terms of just the amount of brute force it takes.
Yeah.
It gives you a different level of appreciation, I think, for what actually gets pulled off. And we've talked a lot on this show about how expensive Unbound has gotten, but then you look at how much goes in behind the scenes and you're like, oh my goodness, this stuff is not free.
Yeah.
They're
they're closing down streets, they're renting barricades, they're start finish line, GPS trackers. There's a station every almost like 10 or 15 miles on course.
All the timing mats.
Timing mats that give your loved ones updates and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's come a long way from cue card only.
Yeah. So I think again, that stuff's not free. I'm not going to sit here and debate if it rationalizes the prices or not. That's not what this episode's about. But I think it's really cool to see and be a part of helping to bring all of that to life. And I think one of the other cool things is because most of the pros show up the week of or early in the week of, you get to see a lot of them riding around too, just in a very casual setting. And you saw a few pros.
Yeah. I saw, it's one of my favorite events because I get to see all the pros, all my heroes.
Yeah.
And, I just fangirl so hard.
You do.
I do.
How many did you point out to me? And I'm like, I don't.
Yeah, I would be like, oh, did you know who that was? And Danny's like, I have no idea. I was like, that was so-and-so. And he's like, oh, I don't know who that is. And
well, I know who some of them are, but I couldn't pick them out of a crowd. So then I just started like coming up with random names for people.
And then he's like, oh, you know who that guy was? And I was like, who is that? And he's like, oh, that's Joe Smith.
It's Bob Anderson.
Bob Anderson. I'm like,
you're like, who? I'm like, now you know how I feel.
Yeah. So, yeah, we were goofing around like that. It was cool. And then we got to see, the new Diverge that was and
Ian Boswell went by.
Yeah, a couple of times we saw him.
Yeah.
And saw him on the new Diverge. We got to see that up close and the new Crux. It's not being debuted at, Unbound, but it was the newer version for this year. And then we saw some other new bikes. We saw the new Argon 18.
I was going to say, Travis found his new bike.
Yeah, I found it. Year. So it's, it's just gotta.
I was waiting for you to get the wallet or the credit card out and just start trying.
Well, I mean, you asked them, like, can we just buy these right now?
Right.
They seemed a little hesitant, like we weren't serious.
Right. Well, I noticed the one dark matter was Argon 18 dark matter was small.
Yeah.
So I stood over it just to see how it fit because I wasn't sure what size I would need, and it was everything in me not to just take off on that. It had pedals.
Yeah, it had pedals. You were like, I'll see you later.
I think this bike fits.
I'm gonna take it for a test ride.
It's good times. And that's something too. I mean, so many different bikes out there, and I think it was funny. I think you were asked like, "What's the best bike?" And I'm like, and it was a friend of ours' girlfriend, right? And it was like, "You're trying to start a fight, aren't you?" Yeah. You don't ask what the best bike is.
Yeah, the best bike that what I always say is the best bike is probably the bike that you're riding.
Yeah,
because it fits you, and if anything that can hold up for 200 miles or longer, then that's probably a really good bike.
Yeah.
But if you're riding a bike and it can't ride 60 miles without you, getting upset with it, then that's definitely not the best bike.
Yeah. So Friday we had Friday off, and we decided to go do our openers up on Diverge. Geez, see, we got me all thinking about that new Diverge. We went up to Divide Road.
Yeah.
And pre-rode that, which might have been the smartest thing we did all week.
Yep.
The chance to pre-ride that and know which lines to take, where the dangerous spots were. I mean, because I kind of had some issues there last year with the flat. I feel like having the opportunity to get through that safely and know where the lines were was everything I needed for confidence to know on race day, here's where I need to be. And again, where to be on a high alert for a dangerous area.
Yeah.
So we did that, and that was a great time. And it was for as much as it rained, I couldn't believe. I mean, I know the north dries out pretty quick. It dried out fast.
Yeah, so. From Friday to Saturday, it was like a completely different road.
Right.
And, it just was like just a testament to how much drainage goes on up there. So it was really good to, it was, like you said, it was nice to pre-ride it, get the lines right, know where some of the trickier sections were. And then, it wasn't the first MMR, but it's the second MMR that's on this course, and just knowing that we're going to be stacked behind people. Yeah. Just knowing okay, you're going to be in a line. So give people room here, give space, let them pick their lines, you navigate yourself secure, safely, and then go. And so I think that was really great for a lot of it.
Yeah. And so not to jump ahead, but when we were there on race day, I mean, I don't know about you, but somehow I ended up ahead of you going into that. I did not want that. I wanted you to be in front of me on Divide Road because I trust your ability to find a line better than mine in those types of terrain. So I really would rather you been in front of me. But I think, if I remember right, you dropped a bottle.
Yeah, I dropped a bottle.
It hadn't quite caught back up yet.
Yeah, on the first at the end of the first MMR road. Yeah. And you're like, hey, you dropped a bottle, and hope you don't need that. And I was like, no, I need that. So I had to get off and then run back up the course, grab my bottle, and then wait for a clear spot and then jump back on.
Yeah. So I got in front of you, but you did catch up right. I think right as we were getting into Divide Road, you weren't far behind me, maybe a couple of riders back, and so there was a line, just like we predicted. There was a line, and we were given space, but they had a guy in front of me. I think somebody checked up in front of him, but he grabbed a rear brake, and I saw his back wheel slide out, and oh man. Yep. I was like, because how it is in slow motion. I'm like, oh no, this is where it all ends right here. The race is going to be over, and so he went sideways. I couldn't go anywhere. Because it's slippery. It is like ice. Yep. Like mud, but it's ice. It's like ice, and I couldn't go anywhere, and ended up laying the bike down. Fortunately, I laid it down on my left side because the middle of the road there kind of helped. I don't think the bike ever actually touched the ground. It didn't make contact. But man, my arm did. I got pretty good scrapes and bumps and bruises. But fortunately, I was able to jump back on, and no harm, no foul. Because I was for certain I was going to get up and handlebar was going to be busted, or something was going to be wrong.
And then I rode right by you, and I was like, are you okay? And you're like, yeah, I'm fine. And I'm like, all right. And I was like, so then I just pedaled on and just got around him, and and then I think in the next section too, people were they were again, they didn't pre-write it, which is fine.
Sure.
But they were, a lot of people that like had people behind them that, they're not skilled descenders, or they're not sure on their navigation, or how to navigate the sections properly.
Yeah.
Were just taking it really slow. And it was kind of like, man, the thing is like once
it's almost more dangerous.
Yeah. It's like once you're committed to going through it, just ride through it.
Right.
And you can't just stop.
Yeah.
Like, you just have to and a lot of people were trying to stop and like get to the middle, or like stop and get off the road and walk on the side of it. And so it was just like, it was really kind of frustrating, but it was what it was. And we kind of navigated around these people, and eventually, we kind of got to some free space, and we were able to get through there. So,
yeah, I mean, and that's really probably a good segue into what our plan was, because we had talked before the race about, how we might try to pace this and how we could work together, because we both had the same goal. We both, you beat the sun last year.
Yep.
For those that don't remember the recap, I did not beat the sun last year. I missed it by mere seconds, less than a minute.
Yep.
It was anywhere, depending on how the time cutoffs, it was anywhere from like 11 to 30 seconds.
Yep. It was very close.
Very close. It was, devastating.
It's painfully close.
I will say, I went back and looked at the results this year, and somebody missed it by less than 11 seconds, I think, or maybe right at 11 seconds. So
Wow.
I can feel your pain.
Yeah.
So
it's like we know exactly where you feel like.
Yeah. So I mean, that was my only goal. I didn't really care about age group ranking. Didn't care about top whatever percent, whatever was going to get me across the line before 8:45. That's all I cared about.
Yeah.
In the last 4 weeks of my training, as we talked about on here, I won't recap all of it, but it was just a disaster thanks to illness and foodborne illness and colds and allergies or whatever it was. 4 weeks of basically inconsistency. And so a lot of uncertainty coming into this thing, for sure. And a lot of built-in excuses too. My only goal, like I said, was just to beat the sun. And we talked about it beforehand that I think I was pretty clear with you. I was nervous about even having the fitness to get this thing done.
Yeah.
Just because of the way the prior four, not a lot of confidence at all. And
so then we decided, I approached Danny like, I don't know,
2 weeks ago,
2 weeks ago. And I was like, I want to form an alliance with you.
Yeah. Well, let's be very clear. You have pretty much like mopped the floor with me in all the races up to this point. So like, it's not like you had anything else to prove. Like, I've already destroyed like, if you thought you were going to beat me this year, you can just put that aside. Like, I've already beat you enough times. You could beat me the rest of the year and it still wouldn't be enough to make up for it. So like, I appreciated it when you came to me with the alliance, because I'm like, okay, well, I feel like I'm negotiating from a position of zero power here. Like, yes, I'll take your offer. Okay, what else do I need to do?
Yeah. So the plan was basically I would pull for the first third, and then in the section where I suck the hardest, which is from checkpoint 1 to checkpoint 2, Danny was going to take over and pull and pace, because he's much better at that terrain than I am. And then I would, again, pull for the last third, because...
Well, it was going to be an open race for the last third.
Yeah.
But you would take the pole because...
Yeah, I would take the pole because that's my preferred terrain and stuff.
Even if you weren't, I wasn't going to...
Yeah, exactly.
You know me, I would not offer to go to the front.
He'd be like, no, I'm not pulling. This is not my time. I'm tired. I did all that work before, So that was my thing, is I was like, Danny, I will pace the first third if you help pace the second third. Yeah. And then from there, after, I don't know what we said, like maybe Koala Hill or maybe Americus or something like that. It was on.
Dead on race.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. After checkpoint 2, it's, it's a free for all. But
and your goal, I know last year you obviously beat the sun handily, but I think for you, we were thinking maybe certainly a chance to break 13 hours, maybe even a chance to get closer to 12 hours or under, especially if the course was going to be fast, which I don't think I'm giving away any secrets here. The course was extremely fast. I mean,
super fast.
All the pro divisions set records, right? So It was a super fast course, which is crazy given how much rain there was. But so that was your goal, was to try to break the time from last year and have a chance to get close to 12 as possible. And I think, so when you came to me with the Alliance, I was like, well, this makes sense because it's going to help me get to beat the sun. Again, I didn't really care just as long as I beat the sun. It wasn't like every other race we've had this year is like a little friendly competition. Yeah, I'd love to beat you, but for this one, it was just about the accomplishment.
Yeah,
So,
and I was like, I was working it from like, if anything, we'll bank time for Danny to beat the sun. So if something happens and that last third is just a complete, wheels falling off, he can still like limp in, and make it before the sun goes down.
So we get out of the start. We lined up at like the back half of the 12, 13, right front of the 13-hour group.
Yeah.
Right. So that one, that's a good spot to line up. You're in a
we moved up maybe like, I don't know, like
spots maybe.
Yeah, 4 or 5 groups. As we were kind of just going out of Emporia there. And then we get to, of course, the 45-minute mark, and then we start passing a lot of people that went out a little too hot. And we were just cruising right along. We were basically riding with, a friend of the podcast, Jackson, and those guys from Move Up. And we were riding along with them, and they were pacing just about us. They had the same goal. They wanted to beat the sun. So we're like, cool, we're all in this together.
That's
then.
right.
And we found ourselves in a really good group. We had Kelly riding with us for a while. He had to pull off and go to the restroom. And then, and then I hope he, got in a good group and then like made it, and all that other stuff. Like I'm sure with the heat and stuff, he probably struggled a little bit, but other than that, like as we all did, we just had that plan, and we skipped the first water stop. We had that plan. We had the fueling plan. We separated our fuel and our hydration because we knew it was going to be hot. And so we just made the goal was to just stay cool and just keep riding and stay on target.
Yeah. So we went out, I think we had the same setup. I had 2-liter pack with nutrition, and then I had 2 1-liter water bottles with hydration. And then I had a couple of gels to cover the extra time for nutrition. And to your point, we planned to skip the first water station because last year I think we only spent like three minutes there, maybe, if even that. But we talked about, it's like the importance, especially if you've got a group that's working well together, which we did. We were fortunate there was a group that was working well. And I think most of us skipped that water stop. We didn't know it at the time, but as we rolled right through it, they all went with us. And so I was like, all right. So it turned out to be a very smart decision. Saved ourselves a couple minutes there. And to your point, we had all the nutrition we needed, all the hydration we needed. And best part of it was because we didn't stop the water stop, I didn't have this urge to fill everything up like I normally would. So I didn't carry that extra weight through like Divide Road and all that. Smart choice. And we ended up beating our time last year, or at least right on the same pace with a lighter effort.
So we went faster. We did it easier and with less surges. And so like our intensity factor, our normalized power, our average heart rate, our average power for that whole section all the way up to checkpoint 1, lower than last year. By like, 10 to 15. So on across the board, it was just, I paced, perfectly right at my tempo zone. We were just riding tempo, and we were just, cruising right along. Everything was
clicking. It was nice. In fact, we were moving so quickly. I remember I talked with you a little bit. I think it was after Divide Road. You had caught back up, and we were just riding together again. And I was like, I feel like we're going out a little too hot. And you're like, no, the power is right. And I'm like, no, I mean like time wise, like I feel like we're like, you always want to go faster, but it's like, it's something doesn't like, it just feels like we're moving a lot fast. So I was afraid we were cooking it a little bit too much, but then every time I check normalized power or even average power, I'm like, everything's good. Heart rate's good. I'm like, okay, this is like, we're on, right? Like, and that like I said, we got through Divide Road, and I'm telling you, there's so many demons just swirling around me with Divide Road. Even with the crash, I was just like, oh my gosh, not doing this again this year.
Not again.
Man, I was just so happy when we turned on the Skyline and I got past that. And even though I crashed, I was like, I'm good.
Yep.
Like, it was like such a relief mentally. And then all that kind of went out of my mind. Like, I didn't think about the pacing anymore. Like, I knew you had the pacing under control. As long as I stuck with you or I didn't get too far ahead of you, we were good. There was one section in that first 70 miles though where there was like a punchy climb, and I jumped ahead just to take the pace on it. And I just remember I was just nailing down tempo. Like, that's all I could do was just tempo. And I'm like, I just remember looking back, I'm like, is this what you hired me to do? Because like, this is it. Like,
yeah, is this what you hired me to do, boss? And I was like, oh yeah, I don't remember hiring you to give me lip. And then we kept going because I'm just struggling on this hills.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, for a big guy like me, these sharp, punchy hills, like I'm putting out like 400, 600 watts, just to keep the bike upright. And so I'm just like,
so I'm just pounding tempo, and you were doing a great job. You were right there on the wheel, and I just kept kind of looking back to make sure I wasn't, because sometimes I can go a surge a little bit, and I didn't. I mean, because again, I knew my fitness. Like, this is where, knowing that I missed that 4 weeks, I was very cautious about any surges, which played into a huge advantage over the course of the day, because I was never tempted to just push over the hill, over the hill. I always stayed. I think I went back and looked for that first 70 miles. I had my maximum power at any point in time was like 200 watts less than it was last year.
yeah,
Which tells me I was very consistent with my tempo efforts, and I never really just got on the pedals and just mashed them, which is a huge energy drain when you do that. And so I was just tempo. So I kept looking back, and you were there, and everything was good.
yeah.
So
I was looking at your wheel when we were climbing. I was like, just hold on to it, and then just do whatever he's doing and follow the line. And I was just right behind you the whole time.
So I'm like, man, this is, and then we were still before checkpoint 1, so you came back around in front on that next section, and man, we get into checkpoint 1, and it was at least the same speed or same time, maybe even a little faster than last year.
Yeah, we were like almost 10 minutes faster.
Okay, yeah. And it was good. I mean, it felt really good. And we were quick at that stop too. In fact, one guy caught up to us later. He goes, wow, you guys were fast at that stop. I'm like, we don't mess around. We've learned our lesson.
Yeah,
like,
even so, so little thing that happened to me, I swapped my checkpoint 1 and checkpoint 2 bags. And so I had all the stuff that I was going to use for checkpoint 2 at checkpoint 1. And so I was like, oh man. And then, and so that kind of like freaked me out for a little bit, because basically what I was going to do for checkpoint 2 was just have water and then have all nutrition, like gels and goos and stuff. And basically I was like, okay, I'm good. 'Cause I had a Red Bull there at checkpoint 1, and I just, I had plenty of nutrition to make it to the next aid stop. Yeah. To checkpoint 2. It's just that at checkpoint 2, if it was hot, the plan that I had was like, if I get at checkpoint 2 and it's hot, I will dump out my nutrition mix and just put straight water in there. Yeah. And that was the plan that I had going into like after I kind of figured everything out and thought about it for, the next, 10 miles or so. Yeah.
I was a little worried for you, and I think I asked you probably a dozen times while we were there. The minute we were at that stop, like, is everything good? Are you going to be okay? Because like, I was a little worried you might be light on nutrition. Then I remembered, if anything, you're probably carrying maybe just a touch more nutrition. But it's one of those mental blocks that gets in your head. It's like, oh no, I swapped the bags. Like, what am I? It's just things you
you're
don't
just
need.
like, oh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And then I thought about it for 2 seconds. I was like, no, I have plenty of nutrition to last the, what is it? We planned on 6 hours. Yeah. I planned on basically 5 hours from checkpoint 1 to checkpoint 2. And I planned on 6 hours 5 hours from checkpoint 1 to checkpoint 2. And I planned 4 hours
from 2 to the end.
From 2 to the end. But I also didn't count the extra 100 calories that I had from the Red Bull. Right. And so I was like, okay, so if anything, I may be a little light, but if we keep going like we're going,
Yeah.
we'll come in pretty close.
Pretty close.
So I was like,
so you settled down.
Yeah. So I basically said, it is what it is. We're moving on.
Yeah.
And I was okay with it. And I was like, it's totally fine. Not a big worry. We're fine after I, thought about it for, 5 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, I know it was stressful there for a little bit. But yeah, we did our pack swap, ladder swap at the aid station, at the checkpoint, got our supplies, and off we went. And then that was my turn to start taking pulls.
Yep.
Right. So you coming out of Alma, you kind of go a little bit west, then you go back to the northeast, then you go back to the west, and we were doing pretty good there for a bit. And then we hit a section. There was it's not really an MMR, but it's just a less traveled, kind of a rocky terrain, but it's a little bit of a rolling uphill, a little bit punchy in spots, but it was straight into a west headwind. And I can just remember somehow I ended up on the front of everybody. I felt like you for a minute. Like there's this train of people. I swear.
Yeah, there was like 6 dudes on your wheel, and I'm like, man, Danny's just taking a pull.
Yeah,
I was like, just go get it, man.
Yeah. So again, I'm just in tempo mode. I'm like just pounding out tempo zone, and every little roll and flat spot, I just hold that tempo. And that headwind just, thank goodness we do things. Ready for this? We do things like open range.
Yeah.
Yeah, who's drinking?
Yeah.
So we do things like open range, and headwinds don't really bother you anymore. So
No.
I'm just nailing it down, and then we get close to the end of that, and all these dudes just start passing me, and I'm like, nobody says a word, like not a thank you, kiss
Not
my backside, nothing.
No nice pull,
No,
nothing.
nothing.
Like,
It's
hey,
like,
thanks for
right,
breaking the wind.
right.
Like nothing.
And then you come up next to me, and I was like, hey, nobody even said a word, like riding the wheel. I'm like, I feel like you. And then I just remember you said something like, yeah, I had to drop back my heart rate spike. I can't remember exactly what you said.
Yeah, I don't even remember. So this is where we're gonna deviate now from the plan.
Well, so you said something, and I wish I could remember, but
I have no idea what I said.
But we ride enough together. Like very rarely do you ever say anything where it like triggers me to like worry. You know what I mean? And so you said something, whatever it was you said, I was just like, huh. It was just one of those like
oh, great.
And so I that's just when my like I just was alerted, right?
Yeah. It's like usually when I'm riding next to Danny goes, I think I'm light on nutrition. And then I'm like, oh.
Let's be real though. That usually happens a lot more often than when you say something. So yeah, I mean, it's just not a good situation. And so I knew something wasn't right, but I couldn't tell what it was. And all I know is it was starting to get hot. Like, and I go back and looked at my Garmin data from that. Like, the temperature jumped almost like 15 degrees over a 10 or 15 minute stretch.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of it was we came out of a little shaded area and went right into that freaking rocky terrain, and it just started cooking.
Yep. Yeah, it got real hot. So then we're still kind of riding together. I take a pull, and we're heading down this road, and the next thing I know, I'm just looking off at this other road and not looking at the right where we're supposed to go.
Yeah.
And totally miss the right hand, and I start to correct, and I'm going into the soft stuff, and I go off the road into the shoulder, and I'm like, I'm gonna die out here.
Let's be real though. It's not really a shoulder; it's more of a ditch.
Yeah, it was like a ditch, and I'm just like, all I need to do is hit some soft gopher hole, and it's over. And I'm like going down, but it's just like I turned, I was like, oh, and Danny is just looking at me like, oh,
I'm like it's like a train wreck. I'm just like, no.
And I'm like going through this tall grass and stuff, and I'm just holding it, and I'm just like, and I'm just like just turning, and eventually it just corrects itself, and I keep it standing up, and I was like, oh my gosh, what the heck was wrong with me?
I have no idea how you saved it. I was just waiting to see like Travis just disappear into the tall grass.
Yeah.
Like,
I was
oh my
half
gosh.
expecting to just go right over the bars, because I was just waiting for that front wheel to get sucked into some soft section and just flip.
Yeah.
And it didn't. I rode it out, and I was like, I caught back up to Danny. I was like, oh, that was close. He was like, I thought you were going down for sure. And I was like, I thought it was going down for sure.
So yeah, and then I just remember I took a pull on the next little punchy section, and we made this left turn, and I look back, and you were probably like 6 riders back, which isn't huge. I mean, it's fine. Like, whatever. And it's not uncommon on a section like that
Yeah.
type of terrain where you'll drop back. Cause I mean, if I ride my tempo and you're pushing, yours, like just power to weight differences, you're going to fall back a little bit, and that's fine. But I could just see the look on your face, and I was like, and I just put two and two together. I'm like, I don't know if Travis is feeling very good right now.
Yeah.
And then, but so between the comment you made and the turn that you missed, and then looking back, I was like, oh. And then, so I'm like, well, maybe I'm going a little too hard. So I was looking down at my power, like, no, the power's good. And then a group kind of started to go by me, and I was like, I got to latch onto this group.
Yeah.
Like they were moving. They weren't going too hard, but they were going, and we were getting ready to turn back into a headwind. So I'm like, I got to get with this group.
Yep.
And so I just latched on and paced with them for a little bit. And I think the next punchy section, I took a pull and I looked back, and you were nowhere to be found. I'm like, oh shit, maybe.
Yeah. So there was a section. So I almost caught back up to you in that group.
Yeah.
And then there was a downhill right-hander. There was a black bottle that was on the ground. And that was like the second time I blew the corner. I don't know what happened. I just looked at that bottle instead of looking through the corner, and went into the soft stuff.
Yeah.
And then sealant just starts spraying everywhere. And I'm just like, oh gosh. And I see, and then there's this left-hander that goes across this bridge. And the next thing you know, Danny's just pedaling off. And I was like, that was like basically the last time I was like, I was going to see him. So I just stopped, made sure I got the bacon strip out, and I was getting ready to put it in, and it stopped. It's sealed.
Nice.
Checked the tire pressure real quick, just grabbed it, and I was like, yeah, it's good enough. And spun it a couple more times, made sure it was sealed up. And jumped back on and took off.
Nice little plug for Silka there, because the sealant probably saved your ride right there.
Yeah. So then I was like, okay. So then I was like starting to worry. I was like, I don't blow corners. Like,
no,
not like that. Like not two times. I'm like,
remember when I said I wanted to follow you on Divide Road? Like, that's why. Because it's not very, like, you're pretty good about picking the line.
Yeah. So I was like, I don't know what the heck's going on with me. So then I was like, I caught up to this other person, and they seem like they know how to like take corners. And so I was like, this time I'm going to follow them and I was very focused on what they were doing. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, I'm just going to follow them through this corner. And so they make this left-hand corner, and the next thing I know, I'm blowing that corner too. And I'm like, there's something really wrong with me. Like, I can't focus hard enough to like get this cornering right. And it's not like they took it fast. It wasn't loose. It was a perfect corner. It was cambered, everything. It was just basically like, you just rail it. I didn't rail it. I just didn't have control. And then I was like, there is something wrong going on here. There is something seriously
the perception is off.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you even got the right tires for you. Got the grippiest tires you want to have.
I mean, these tires saved my bacon more than once for sure.
Yeah.
And I can't, like those tires, they're $85 worth each.
That's right.
So, that's when I was like, there's something going on here.
Yeah.
And then we get to Vollen Road, and I'm like, okay, just pace yourself up this climb. It's steep. It's hard. Get to it, start pacing up it, and I look at my power. I'm like putting out 200 watts. It feels like 1,000.
Yeah.
I look at my heart rate. It's at 140. I'm like, I should be pedaling. I can pedal.
Yeah. So just for reference, 200 watts for you is barely enough. It's super easy because, it's barely enough to get up like a 3% grade. And this is like 4 or 5%.
Yeah. And I'm just like doing everything I can to turn the crank. And then I'm like, okay, well, maybe this is the steep part. So I hop off and I start walking. I walk, fast. And I'm like, okay, drink some water. I'm like, dump some water on myself. I'm like, maybe I'm starting to get a little hot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I get to the flatter section, was able to kind of finish it, go up. We get to Little Egypt. There's two steep, punchy climbs there.
Yep.
The first one, I was like, nope, I can't do it.
Nope.
I got to it, and I was just like, I can't ride.
Can't get the power to
Can't
go.
get the power out. And then my heart rate's just going lower. So it started at 140, and it felt like it was so much.
It's like the death cross, because it's like power's down, or power's going up, RPE's like skyrocketing, and your heart rate's plummeting.
It's just going down. About that time, I see Jackson. He's like, "You doing okay?" I was like, "Yeah, I think I'm just getting like a little too hot, a little too cooked." And he's like, all right, well, take it easy. And he went off with his guys. And then I kind of caught back up to them after a little Egypt. Then we get to the second climb.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I can't go anymore.
Yeah.
I couldn't even go up the hill. So I was like, oh my gosh, what is going on here? And then it's just the dark thoughts started coming in.
Yeah.
And,
Which you're pretty good at shielding those out. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it happens to everybody, but you do a pretty good job blocking that stuff out.
So then I was like, just get to the water stop. I'm like, just get there and then, then reassess.
Yeah.
So I get to the water stop eventually and I'm like hobbling in there.
Yeah.
Like it took me a long time to get there.
Yeah.
And I get there and I'm like dumping water and grabbing ice and stuff and filling out my water bottles. And then I'm like, all right, let's just go to the aid station.
Yeah.
Checkpoint 2, just got to get there.
It's only 37 miles.
Yeah.
Right?
It's not, I'm like, I can do that. I can do it. So I go to stand up, get dizzy, nauseous. And I'm like, oh God, no, not that.
Yeah.
And so then I was like, I sat back down and I finished another liter of water, dumped, another liter on myself, grabbed some more ice.
Yeah. Just
and then
cool
I
down,
was like,
cool down,
yeah,
cool
cool.
down.
I was trying to cool myself and I was just sitting there and I'm thinking, I'm like, what the heck is going on here?
Yeah.
Like, what is happening?
Yeah.
And so I'm just sitting there kind of resting a little bit and I'm like, okay, let me eat some salt tabs. So I eat a handful of salt tabs. And I was like, and then I'm like, well, let me have some food. So I ate a little bit of food.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, it should be good now.
Yeah.
Stand up, get nauseous.
Still not good.
I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, this is not good. I'm like, I can't. This is feeling horrible.
Yeah.
And so then I'm like, well, maybe I'll get better. Let me just head on down the road.
Yeah.
And so then I get up and of course I feel nauseous. I get a little dizzy again. And then I asked one of the aides, I was like, hey, how have you guys heard anything about, our road, our avenue and the sections coming up? And he's like, yeah, there's been a couple pretty bad wrecks up there. There's some sketchy stuff. And then I was like, okay. So I went and got the water bottle and I filled up my 2-liter pack.
Yeah.
And then I sat there for a second and I was like, okay, do I want to continue?
You're going through the checklist.
Yeah. And I'm like, do I think I can? And then I thought back to blowing all those corners. And I'm like, if I can't hold a good corner, like, should I be doing tricky descents?
Yeah.
And I was just like, and then I just made after that, I was like, man, I was debating whether or not I could wait until it started getting cooler. I was like, well, I mean, I don't have to beat the sun. That's not a big thing. Like,
you beat it last year.
Yeah, I beat it last year. I can do the Breakfast Club now and get that patch.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Like, I don't
earn them all.
Yeah. I don't really care about that. But then I'm like, but I think I can't, I don't think when it gets cooler, I'm going to get better.
Yeah.
I think I'm not better right now.
Yeah.
And so I was like, that's it. I'm going to
pull the plug.
And then so I text the wife, let her know I was fine.
Yeah.
And then I called and they came and picked me up and they're like, yeah, there's a guy that went into Council Grove and he there was a turn and he was supposed to turn right and it was straight on the asphalt and he's like, he just went straight across it and he's all cut up and I was like, oh man, good thing. I was like, oh my God, with me taking corners, that would have been me for sure.
Right. Well, and then it's like the last thing we need is Travis to end up in a hospital room somewhere because that's the end of Travis's gravel cycling for a while.
For sure. Yeah, that'll be the end for a while. Yeah. So and there's a lot of things too, like you think about especially when you're going to pull out of a race, that I've spent a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of money and a lot of, hype and all this stuff only to, get there and just succumb to the heat. Yeah. Which it happens. It happened. It's not that I haven't done heat training. Yeah. So it was just one of those things that once I made the decision, I was okay with it. And I decided, it's safer. We always say live to fight another day or live to ride another day. So I'm like, well, I'll just have to ride 2 years of the South route and then come back for redemption on the North route.
Yeah. But I mean, so of course, I had no idea.
Yeah, Danny, I didn't text them or anything.
No.
So
And I'm actually, so just real quick, we usually see each other on Garmin. I had my phone in a low power mode. I wasn't getting any Garmin updates, so I had no idea where you were at, what was going on. I had nothing to work from other than I think Travis is back there.
Yeah.
So
any minute now, he'll be coming back.
Yeah. So
You'll see him rally. He'll be coming back. Yeah. So.
And just real quick, I mean, when we caught up later and we're talking about it, so we saw an old friend at Checkpoint 2 that was also supporting us at the Flint Hills gravel ride.
Yeah.
And at the Casey station. And he's like, hey, where's Travis at? And I'm like, I have no idea. I was like, we were back before Water 2 and he dropped off my pace. And I said, I have no idea. I hope he's okay. Because like, I know you well enough, like you'll go through that and then you'll just bury yourself.
Yeah.
And then I think if this had been anything other than 200 miles, like if it had been just another 10 miles, you would have just buried yourself and gotten it done. And it probably would have been the right choice. To try to bury yourself and go another 90 miles through sketchy terrain with MMR roads and all that, like, no, there's no reason zero reason to risk that. But I had no idea. So I said, hey, if you see Travis come through here, just tell him. I said, just get it done, man. Just get it done. Whatever it takes, get it done. So I had no idea that you were out. And I'm glad you made that choice. Never want to see it happen, but I'm really glad you did, because it probably would not have ended well.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, you got at Humphreys,
the same thing last year.
And Serena's got it. The same thing happened to her. And like,
it's like altitude. It just hits, it will hit you. Heat will hit you a lot like altitude does. You can be fine in altitude one time and then go back 6 months later and it affects you totally differently.
Yep.
So heat does the same thing. Even if you're heat acclimated, you never really know how the heat's going to treat you. And I mean, you were on top of nutrition, hydration, all that stuff, and it still will just zap you.
Yeah.
And when we talked about this on the way home, and you were telling me about how your RPE was just skyrocketing, but your heart rate was dropping, I'm like, know that feeling all too well. I'm like, yes, it's miserable, and it's gut wrenching because there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I tried everything, and I was just like, nope. And then, so I just caught a ride back, and then I was like, all right, well, now it's up to Danny.
I know, right? So we'll work through that. So, and I caught that group, I latched onto that group and started working my way to Water 2. Just like you, it was getting hot. I had the people at Water 2, they filled all my stuff up with water. And I asked the lady that I had a bag full of ice. I was like, can you just shove like the biggest chunk of ice you got, to shove it down my back? Cause I'm like, I gotta have some cool, I gotta cool off. Like it was blazing hot. I was feeling a lot like you were just describing, but I was starting to kind of get that like RPE problem. And she threw a chunk of ice like this big, like down my back, and it stuck around for probably 10 minutes, thank goodness. And so I got out of there quick, made my way over to Checkpoint 2, and to it's Q Avenue.
Yeah, Q Avenue.
I had that on my note card, because I remember Q Avenue from last year when we pre-rode it, and it's an MMR road that is often forgotten about, because everybody thinks about the R Avenue and the rollers, but the Q Avenue right before that is a pretty dangerous section. If you don't know it's there, you have a chance at flats, but then you also have a sharp left turn out of a creek bed, and that creek bed you have to almost come to a complete stop, unless you're carrying enough speed and you can just jump it, which I was not. So you got to make this sharp and then uphill turn to the left. And I'd walk in that hill because I remember how much it takes out of you going up that thing. So I walked the hill and then make my way down to R Avenue, and it was carnage on R Avenue. Whoever told you about R Avenue, that was right. It was absolute carnage. And those descents they weren't terrible, but again, if you picked the wrong line, you were going to be bouncing your bike across some pretty tough exposed rock. And I was thankful when I got past the fourth roller on our avenue and you make that left turn toward Council Grove. It was a death march, man. Death march. Yeah. And it's so painful because you know how slow you're going and you're just trying to hold on to an average speed. And it's just, our avenue will forever be etched in my mind. It's a tough.
It's a tough.
It is a mental, it creates a lot of mental fortitude.
Yeah.
So anyway, get through that, get to Council Grove. and get that last checkpoint. And just through the Red Bull, I was starving going into checkpoint 2. My stomach was empty. I needed food. So I grabbed a PB&J, ate that in 3 bites, slammed the Red Bull. For 30 minutes, I was just like, oh, I was like not good, man.
Yeah,
I was like, oh my God, why did I do that? So I had to soft pedal for like 30 minutes. And the whole time I'm like doing the bike math in my head, like, I've only got like 60 miles or 40, 50 miles, whatever it was. I'm like doing the math. Like if I can just average however many miles per hour, like I can still beat the sun. Like I at that point, it still didn't dawn on me that I could do it. And so, but I was dying 1,000 deaths out there.
Yeah.
Every pedal stroke felt like another death. It really did. It was just hurting so bad. And you think when you get through R Avenue, you're like, oh, okay, I'm past like those big rollers on R. But then you forget out of Council Grove, you've got a lot of climbing left.
Yep.
And it's not until you get to like 5-10 miles before Americas that you're actually done with the big hills.
Yeah.
And Cahola Hill is there. And then even after Cahola Hill, there's still more climbing.
Yep.
Like everybody, oh, Cahola Hill. And then it's like, that's great. But then you go down, you make a left turn, and there's more climbing. And you're just like, oh my gosh, like.
And then the last MMR road that's up there that's got some, pretty decent descents and stuff. Last year it wasn't too bad, but like when I rode it like 3 years ago or something like that, it was pretty gnarly.
There's some sketchy spots up there. Again, every one of those hills was carnage, people walking it. I made up a lot of spots on people, and don't think for a minute that I was putting out tempo power anymore.
Yeah,
pretty much from Council Grove on, it was all zone 2. Like I couldn't get any power through the pedals. I mean, occasionally I would be able to do a VO2 max surge to kind of get up and over a hill just to get it done. But I mean, everything was endurance zone. I was dead. It was just, and I kept thinking I was behind on nutrition, but we'd done the math on our nutrition so much. Like I knew I had enough to get through the timing. As long as my paces weren't falling off too far, I had enough nutrition. But I reached my back pocket, I had no more gels, and I knew I still had an hour to get to. This was before checkpoint 2. I still had an hour to get to checkpoint 2. I was like, gee, many Christmas, I'm gonna run out of nutrition. Like all this stuff's going through my head.
Yeah.
But I was so thankful when I got past the last MMR road after Cahola Hill, and when I got to road 240. I knew I was coming home.
Yeah.
Because we'd ridden 240 enough, and thank goodness the wind was out of the northwest at this point.
Yeah.
Because it was it was a cross tailwind, but then when you make those south turns, like that little bit of north was pushing you as well. I latched into a couple of groups, and I wish I could have contributed, but I really couldn't. I was just getting a free ride. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I latched on and I didn't pull. I'm sorry. I felt like I did my share of pull in that punchy section for the groups. But anyway, I was just looking at the clock, going, okay, I just gotta keep my average pace. So anything I could do to keep around 18, 19 miles an hour. That's all I was thinking about. Finally get to Highland, and I was like, this is it. It's just the adrenaline starts going. I was like,
the last hill.
The last.
This is the last hill.
We always say that out every ride. It's like, oh, this is the last hill.
Like,
it's like
one more hill.
One more hill, but it's really like 10 more to go. But no, this really is the last one. Adrenaline kicked in, like I said, and I don't remember what my average wattage was, but I know I hit over 300 in a couple of spots. I get towards the top, and somebody he's like, "You're making that thing look like an e-bike." I'm like, "It don't feel like an e-bike.
It don't feel like one."
So I had enough speed though. I was carrying enough speed over that hill. I passed like 3 people in the last 2 corners.
Yeah.
And this year, because last year I came barreling around that final corner and down Commercial fast enough, the cameras didn't, I didn't get a finisher picture because apparently they didn't see me coming down, so they didn't snap a picture. Well, this time I slowed down a little bit because I had plenty of time. Nobody else was really around me, and came in at 13:27.
Yeah.
And as I crossed the finish line, I had this. I remember doing like a little fist pump. I like yeah, because I knew I had it. And just as I hit stop on the GPS, I look up and I see you standing there. I was like, oh, thank God. I was so relieved because I know how much you'll bury yourself. I was like, I hope Travis really isn't out here still. Like, not that I wanted you to finish, but at the same time, I'm like, it will not be good if he pushes through. Like
Yeah,
knowing
if he's
what kind of
still out
condition
there,
you are,
he's gonna be
like I was like, just get the med 10 ready.
Yeah.
Like it was that because again, it's not about like could you finish and all that. It's more about like how much would you bury yourself. So I was so relieved when I saw you there, and of course you were stoked. I was freaking stoked, and I don't even know what happened after that. I was freaking
I got it on film. We'll post some pictures and edit them in. But I was just like, you beat the sun. So it was just like,
Celebration.
that was great. It was super, not that I did visit the med tent to get some more ice when I got there the first, couple hours ago, before he crossed over, but he did it all for getting the badge.
Is this patch right here? Like race the
it.
sun. That's it right
That's
there.
it. That's what we all do it for.
It's like, I think it means so much more because missing it last year it gave me so much motivation, and I was so devastated 4 weeks ago when I came down with food illness and then I got whatever sickness a couple of weeks ago. I still don't seem to be over. I don't know what the heck it is, but basically 4 weeks of a disaster for training leading up to this. I was convinced coming into this, and you kept telling me don't worry about it, but I was convinced that this was going to be another midnight club.
Oh, I was always telling, Danny, like, I don't know, man. I'm like, Danny, you're going to have a great day. Like, just keep thinking positive thoughts, man.
I wanted to think positively, but I'm also very realistic. And I'm like, you don't, what I say, you don't expect miracles on race day. If you don't put the work in,
but I'm like, it's not like, again, it's not like we were coming off the couch.
Right.
We had some bad weeks of training.
Yeah.
It's not like we didn't do training.
Just wasn't consistent.
It wasn't consistent.
In the right workouts. Like we didn't get very many long rides in the last 4 weeks.
Yeah. Which, probably would have helped with that back end.
Sure.
Power and stuff. But that was the part where I was supposed to take over because those rollers.
I did. I left that out. There was, so when I got past the last climbs after Cahola Hill and you start the downhill kind of working your way to Americus, I was just like, I just hope Travis pulls up behind me. I need a wheel to ride. Like, I just need Travis to get here so I have a wheel to ride back.
And then I just pull him all the way. That would have been amazing.
Oh my gosh.
But I was, like, again, I spent an hour at that water stop trying to get myself right, and it just wasn't. I never got any better. I'm
gonna tell you, man. Like I said, we talked about it quite a bit on the way back, but so you're probably tired of hearing it. But for everybody else, like, you get to this point where, you want to accomplish the goal, but like you got to remember, like the safety. You got to be safe.
Yeah.
And I keep telling you, when you made that comment to me, that very first comment after I took that poll, and you're like, oh, my heart rate spiked, and then whatever else you said, I knew then something wasn't right. But like, I'm not the one to make that call.
Right.
Now if you were dangerous, like when you blew that one corner, I was tempted there. Like, dude, like, you all right?
You all right?
But then you bounce back and you were clear headed. Like there wasn't anything obvious. But like if you were dangerous or a risk to somebody else, I would have been like, Travis, you got to pull it, But it wasn't like that, and nobody else can make that call for you unless it's that bad. But again, I go back to I think it's the right call.
I think it would have been that bad if I tried to push on this checkpoint too. And I was like, man, I do not want to end up like crashed on this thing and just wreck myself. Cause
that's the thing. Like there's no question you could have noodled the flats. You could have walked the hills. It's the descents and the fact that all it would have, so on our avenue and then on a couple of those other descents afterwards, there were points where when I was standing up, like I was like cross-eyed, not seeing straight. And thank goodness on one descent, there was a wheel to follow because the line I was seeing and the line I ended up taking because I followed the wheel were two totally different lines.
Yeah.
And thank goodness, because again, you just get to that point where you're just so out of it. So I'm really glad. I know nobody wants to call it, but it was the right call.
Yeah.
No doubt in my mind about it. So, but, what a day. Oh my gosh. It's pretty wild. Yeah. You think about it. Yeah. You do this for the patch and it's like, well, you know what? I don't know where this patch is going to go yet, but that's freaking awesome.
It's going to go somewhere.
It's going to go somewhere, and it's freaking awesome to have. So I'm glad we got it.
So yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
I'm super stoked for you, man. You put in, it was a great effort, and just,
the thing I will say is we had the right plan
Yep.
from day one. So two things here real quick. I know we're going to move into another segment here, but I made a call back in February that I wasn't going to follow the plan that the style of training that we had done before.
Yeah. We were going to do.
I was going to do something different.
Yeah, because we were like, it's just not giving us what
The
we
right
need.
specialty.
Yep.
Right. I mean, it's no knock on Trainer Road at all. I needed something different.
Yeah.
And so I found a couple plans online, and I found this specific Unbound plan. I looked at the sample, and I'm like, let me just buy it and see what it is. If I don't like it, I've still got some workouts out of it. And I bought the plan, I looked at it, and I was like, I think this could work. Like I see where it's going with it, and it's actually lining up with the thought process I had. So I loaded it in, and I'm convinced like that adjustment and the amount of work that was put in, and then just the fact that the motivation from missing out by mere seconds last year, like there was no way I was going to be denied this year.
Yeah.
And except for when the illnesses hit, and I was really devastated by that. But again, like you're right, like I tend to get fixated on workouts trying to be a little bit too perfect, and it's like they don't have to be.
No.
Just show up, do the work, and you'll be like it'll take care of itself.
Yeah, and again, like any plan that you believe in is the correct plan.
Yeah.
So like something that you saw and you worked it and and you were just totally all bought in, and you were like, yeah, this is it. And then it just you put in the work. The thing is like the training gets you the ticket to the dance.
Yeah.
And then your mental and all the other prep. That's what shows off the moves.
That's
on
right.
the dance floor.
That's right.
So, but yeah, I mean, it was great. The plan was good. It was solid. The pacing plan was great.
Yep.
The execution
nutrition.
of the nutrition was perfect.
Yep.
It was a perfect race for you. And, I just can't, my feeling is that if I didn't succumb to the heat like I did, I do think that we could have pulled off something special.
Yeah.
And probably gone sub 13, because that back half on the way home, that last 60 miles or so, that's my bread and butter. I love that section of the course. It's low rollers, but it's rollers, and it's just, and if you give me a little bit of a tailwind to push my fat butt up on these hills, then it's all over. So, but no, it was great. So yeah, I'll be back there again next year. Got
that right. And I there were a couple of points I was like, I think this course is just going to push me into retirement from Unbound. I was in a dark spot.
So the thing is everybody asks like which course do you like more? I love the North course. I think too. Because it's so hard. It is so hard.
Yeah.
You can like I said, and like we said, we prepped and we knew and we've done these roads, and we've hem and hawed over every climb and every section. Like there's so much that's gone into it. We could spend hours talking about each section or whatever. But the South course, I just feel is not the same. It's great. It's beautiful. There's some great spots.
It's amazing.
But it's just not what I like.
Yeah.
And the North course is kind of like,
I think it's just because it's a little more technical. It's like right in your wheelhouse.
Yeah. So it drives me to do it. So I like that one. So, all right. So now we got some rapid fire.
We keep saying we got to come up with some theme music for this. I keep waiting for it. I need to, if anybody's got any ideas on that, that'd be awesome. But, so rapid fire, ChatGPT let us down last week a little bit.
Yeah. This could be the time where if ChatGPT doesn't pull through today, then
ChatGPT. I'm just going to warn you first. It is brutal, and so don't take them personally. And I think these are fair questions from an objective point of view. I don't necessarily agree with the questions. That's all I'm going to say. All right, you ready?
Ready.
All right,
let's do it.
All right, so, oh, geez. Did Unbound break you or just reveal who you are? Starts right off with a gut punch.
Yeah. So no, it broke me.
Did
And,
it?
and the thing is like the thing I love about Unbound is the finish line is not a guarantee.
You know, it's funny. You said that before the race because of the rain and the
Yep.
possibility of heavy mud areas.
Yeah.
But you're right. There's no guarantee about
There's
this race.
no guarantee.
Yeah.
And like I said, how much work and effort and all this stuff that we've put into it. Like,
Yeah.
and you know, I didn't have, not only did I have a horrible day, there was hundreds
Yes.
of us that had
Yes.
bad days. Even the pros had a bad day.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
even some of the pros that
Yep.
you know that I'll follow and stuff like that, they succumb to the heat too.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. The heat can just come on you,
Yep.
and no matter how much once the thing with like heat exhaustion and all that stuff is once you get it, you are more susceptible to it in the future.
Yeah, that's
And-
true.
And I've had it before many times in my life.
Yeah.
And I'm just more susceptible, even though I try my best to make sure that it's not a factor when I train. I try to train without the fan on for my
Yeah.
easy rides. Like you do all the things, you ride outside when it's hot. Like you're trying to increase that. You're staying hydrated so the plasma volume is high. Like
Yeah.
all of that stuff. You do all the things, and it still can F with you.
Yeah. And I think, again, heat, of all the things to not mess with, heat is the one.
Yep.
Because it can get to the worst possible result very fast.
Yeah.
And then being where you are in such a remote area, there's no way anybody can help.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So no amount of people pouring cold water on you is going to solve the problem.
Right.
If you go too far. So like, it's one thing if you DNF because, oh, my legs hurt and I'm done.
Yeah.
But that's not what happened. And
No.
that's not, like, again, when you talk about the heat, I will always say that if you are in a ride, a race, whatever, and you are feeling the heat exhaustion, you better take it seriously and not push too far because, think about people that work out in the heat all day long. They get heat exhaustion. They get pulled into a cold room fast. Like you need
Yeah.
to get recovered. You need to get hydrated. Is not something to mess around with. But I mean, ChatGPT is just brutal, man.
It definitely broke me. That course broke me.
But
And
that's why we do it too.
Yeah.
Like I think that's the beauty of like most races you can go to and like, oh yeah, it's just it's 100 miles. I'll get it done.
yeah.
But it's a 200-mile race. Anything can happen, and anything can happen in a 100-mile race. But 200 miles, you're more likelihood that something's going to go sideways.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you, Unbound kind of broke me last year with
Yeah.
the whole few seconds and the tire issue and all that kind of stuff, and that just gave me more resolve for this year.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's basically what's going to happen when I come in. And I'm sure next year it'll be a cold year.
Yeah.
And I'll do all this heat training and prep. I'll like try to get a sauna or
It'll
something.
be 60 degrees.
Yeah,
out
it'll
there
be
the whole
60
ride.
degrees. It'll probably be snowing. Like I'm just out there, just like what the heck, man.
Oh my gosh! So here's a question more around the race itself, like as an event.
Okay.
And I think this is really interesting. I think because we always talk about the commercialization. Has Unbound gotten too big to stay true to its roots? So with the big brands, pros, media circus, has the Sufferfest been sold out?
I think to an extent it has,
Mm.
as far as like downtown, but
Okay.
the race itself,
The event itself.
the event
course.
itself, the course is never been
Yeah.
truer. It is the exact same course they raced like
yeah.
10, 15 years ago.
For the north side, for
Yeah.
sure. I'm looking at this, so I think I have a different perspective on Unbound now than I did this time last year.
Okay.
I think that I think I was probably getting a little bit too sour on the whole commercialization thing, and there's probably still a part of me where I am like that. Like, you're right, the downtown scene and all of that, it's crazy, it's fun, it's a lot of hype. It's an Instagram photo op.
Yeah.
There were no shortage of people down there, even like before the expo started, like getting their photo ops and doing all the social
Pictures
media.
of, they go out and ride
Yeah.
and
They ride
through
the
a couple
easy-
muddy sections,
Yeah.
and then they come back and they take pictures of
Yeah.
their bikes,
Like-
and they're like, "Look at how muddy it is."
Yeah, and
like,
then they try to stir the pot on all the groups and all, and that's fine, whatever, okay. But I don't see that as a lifetime Unbound problem. In
no,
fact, that's a social media problem, which we had a whole episode on that.
yeah.
I think the event itself, to your point about the course and the intent of the course, it stayed true to its roots. And a few years ago when we went south and we had the mud year, that was one of many mud years in this race's history, but they didn't waver. They kept the route, and people had to suffer through that. And we talked to one of the guys I rode with in the last 20 miles or so. We talked with him at the finish line, and he's from Indiana, and I don't know how many times he's done this, a couple of years I think, but he made that comment. He's like, I had forgotten how hard this race is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, me
yeah,
too.
and I think he was saying it was his 8th time.
Maybe that's what it was.
Yeah. It was his 8th time doing it. And he's like,
I forgot how hard this is.
Yeah, I forget how hard it is.
And then we got a guy that we know in Kansas that this was his 10th time completing it.
Yeah.
And you think about 10 years, 10 times of completing this race, like, and you keep coming back for more. But I mean, I've got to think this race, I think that the race itself has stayed true to its roots.
Yeah.
You can't fault the race for the fact that people want to commercialize around it.
Yeah.
You can complain about the price tag and all that kind of stuff, but I just think that I have a different perspective on the event itself. I don't know. I don't necessarily like the price tag, but I understand it now.
Yeah.
I think I understand more about it. So I'll be back next year.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, that's the same way with me. Like, I understand that, like, you have to, Lifetime has to put on this event. They have to pay for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So that's not what I'm discussing here. What I'm talking about is if you get the chance to do this ride,
Yeah.
to do Unbound,
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah.
And I will do it as long as I can.
Yep.
Yep. As long as the wheels stay on, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And so and the thing is too, is like, even if you don't want to do the price tag or anything like that, just come and ride these rides.
Yeah,
You can
the
ride
roads.
all of
The
these
roads are there.
Yeah. They don't roll them up at night.
That's right.
They don't pack them away.
That's right.
You can come do some of these local events.
That's right.
And you can ride a lot of these roads at these local events for a fraction of the price.
That's right. Reach out to us. We'll take you out there and we'll go ride them.
Yeah.
We'll ride them with you.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah. We'll go.
All right, so it's kind of coming back to the whole DNF theme, but I think this is important because I think it's really important for people to understand what goes into the decision, but then also, like, you know what, it's okay. Like,
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world.
Right.
So all right, so here's one, and I think this is a really good one. Where'd it go? All right. How do you deal with suffering that doesn't lead to the glory? So you put the suffering in for the training through the first 100 and whatever miles of the event itself, but you didn't get the payoff of the finish line. So how do you deal with that?
I always just, so I'm more of, I guess the way I want to phrase it is, I'm the person that once the decision's made, that's it.
Yeah, you are.
It's like, if so if I would have sat at that
Yeah.
water stop and said, I'm going to go to checkpoint 2,
You would have done it.
I would have done it.
Yeah.
Come, hell or high water, I would have done it.
Yeah.
And so for me to sit there and think, you know what, I need to pull out of this race for my own safety. Like, after that, I just didn't think about it anymore. I was like, this decision's made.
Yep.
And I just, the plan was perfect. Everything was great. We were, everything was on target. You have bad luck.
Yeah.
And that's part of bike racing. And
That's
if
right.
you've ever done a lot of bike racing or a lot of these events, some days you have it, some days you don't. And, I didn't have it this day.
Yeah.
And that's, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And unfortunately it happened on race day. I wish it would have happened on a training ride or a training day. And, and I could have, fixed it or, plan more, but you can't plan for this kind of stuff when it was 50 degrees 3 days before and then 90 degrees
We were wearing
before.
jackets out there for crying out loud, and pull over jackets during the volunteer work because it was so chilly out there.
Yeah.
And and then there's that last one here, because I think, again, I'll answer this one because this really isn't directed toward you to respond to, but it says, does a DNF define someone, or does how they respond to it define them more? It says, what did you see in your teammate when things went sideways? So I obviously wasn't there when you made the choice, but as I said to you afterwards, like I saw your, I know whatever, again, like, gosh, I wish I could remember.
Dude, I don't even know what I said.
And it may have just been how you said it too, but
Yeah.
something like triggered right there where I knew it wasn't right.
Yeah.
And it's like, whatever. Okay. So you know, we're really big on, you know what, you keep pedaling, you keep pushing through. Like, it's never as dark as it seems. It'll always come around. Your legs will come around. But this wasn't about your legs. Like, this was about, like, we could tell it was heating up. And I think the thing about, like, when things go sideways, the one thing I know is that, number one, you made the decision, which as I said, like, nobody can make that decision for you. You made it. I personally think it was the right decision. If I had been there when you were wrestling with it, you asked me my opinion, I would have told you, you should pull the plug. You might not have listened to me. In fact, you probably would have just said, you know what, the hell with you, I'm going to go on.
You don't know me, son.
You don't know me. But that's okay. But what I do know is that, and I always, you know, again, I go back to when I coached youth baseball competitively, and I was told the players, like, it's not about the error you make, it's how you respond from it.
Yeah.
And I would not compare a DNF to an error, but it's a similar mindset. It's how you respond to it. And the fact is I know that this will be, because I know we use these types of things for motivation for the next thing.
Yep.
And so when it's really good and you achieve a goal, that's motivation to, like, okay, I can do better now.
Yeah.
And when things don't go the way it's planned, like, what did we start doing almost immediately after? Oh my gosh, the first 70 miles of this race were amazing. We had the right plan. Like, the power was dialed in. So, like, we knew we had the right approach.
Yep.
Which is half the battle in this. In fact, it's like 80% of the battle.
Yeah.
So now it's like, what do we start talking about almost immediately? It's like, hey, next year, this is how we're going to tweak the plan, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. And then we're going to, so, like, we've already started thinking about how it's going to be better for the next attempt. And, like, to me, that means, like, hey, you know what? The DNF is what it is. Who cares? Like,
yeah.
So now it's time to move on and get better from it. And that, like, to me, that's how it's, like, that's what defines somebody.
Yeah.
It's how you respond to it. Yeah. So when I crossed the finish, I mean, you were more excited about it than I was.
Oh, dude, I was so pumped.
Like I couldn't believe it. Like
I was like, he beat the sun.
I know, right? Like, I mean, I was pretty freaking stoked about it. I screamed. I probably said some words I shouldn't have with kids around, but, like, I was freaking excited. But you were more excited than I was, I think. And like, you didn't sulk about your, you know, the decision. Yeah, you'd had a few hours to probably process it all by then. But, like, it's one thing to sit and, like, you process it, and, like, you question, you go, it's like anything else. You go through that, like, did I make the right decision? Yes, you made the right decision. All right.
I had like 20 miles of thinking about all of this when I was dying the slow death of the heat exhaustion out there. So,
but you don't like sit there and feel sorry for yourself about it. You didn't get down about it. You didn't, like, let it sour. So, like, to me, that's what you look for. And, like, you use this to find a way to make things better out of it. And so, to me, I think that's why I don't ever say, like, I would never say a DNF defines somebody. I know this is just a question but it's a really important thing, because people wrestle with this kind of stuff when they're in an event, or when they're doing a training ride and they fail the training ride. And it's like, there's a really hard thing about that. That's, like, I think the more you figure out how to just move on from it, and you just figure out, oh, you know what, I'm going to use that to make me better next time. Yeah. I think that's the only thing you can do at that point. So.
Yeah. My thing is always, like, don't make the same mistake twice.
Yeah.
Like, so if I do Unbound again and I get, like, you know, a heat exhaustion again, then I'm going to have some problems. Right. Then I'm going to be very upset. Right. I'm going to be, like, you know, rethinking everything. Exactly. Because, like, that is not, you know, it's one thing to have it on a day like, you know, on the day like Saturday, but, you know, to have it multiple years in a row, and you know exactly what, you know, the South course is hotter. Yeah, for sure. It's always hotter. It's more exposed. It's basically, you know, the hottest one. Yeah. And so it's like, you know, the prep is going to be there. Like, the thing is, just don't make the same mistakes twice. That's right. And you know, you move on. And like I said, once I made a decision, it was it. I was done. I was done thinking about it. I was done giving it time. Yep. I debated with myself, weighing the pros and the cons of moving on and pressing on and doing all that stuff. I tried to figure out whether or not I was good enough to go. Yeah. And then I asked, you know, one of the Jeep guys, he was coming in to pick up some people it wasn't my guy. And I was like, hey, what's these roads like out there? And he's like, it's carnage out there. Like, he's like, I'm pulling people left and right. And he's like, some of these descents are really bad. And I was like, and then I just sat down and I wrestled with the thought of like, am I going to be able to descend? The way I was taking corners gives me pause, because even on an easy corner, I freaking blow it.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's when I knew something was not right. And I was like, I don't know if that's safe. And I don't want to be like, I'll take risks, but like not
to that level.
Not to that level. Not to like, that's just not smart.
Right.
Like the race is still there. It'll go around this route in 2 more years.
Yep.
I can have redemption then.
Yeah.
Until then, I'll train harder.
That's right.
And be more prepared.
That's all you can do, man.
That's it.
So
and I always, and the thing is like, I thought about, like, oh, what are my athletes going to say? And what are my, like, oh, what are my family going to say? And like, oh, they're all going to be disappointed. And I was like, nobody cares. They just want me to
support you.
They want me to come home.
Exactly.
And not be
not
like
have to come
in an
visit you in
arm
the hospital.
sling because I broke my collarbone, or like, I'm in a concussion, like.
Or worse,
Yeah.
Quite honestly, or worse. But
so,
well, the reality is that, everybody, we all know how hard this stuff is.
Yeah.
And so nobody ever, the hell with the people that want to make any other comments about it. I don't think anybody that I know has ever gone, oh, you DNF. No, because like everybody knows how hard this stuff is.
Yeah.
And the reality is that, again, when you use it to make yourself better, and that's all you can do. So I know you're going to wrestle with that stuff. I mean, I've done it. I did it when we did Dirty Disco earlier this year. I was like, oh my gosh, first ride of the year. And I'm like,
we can't even complete that. What are we doing?
Yeah. But no, like I said, it was the right call. I'm really thankful that you did what you did, because, the alternative, in my opinion, I think the likely alternative would have been, I'd probably been either picking you up at the Med 10 or at Emporia Hospital, having to come visit you and then explain to your wife how I let you get in a bike wreck.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the one giving that message.
Yeah,
and then,
you don't want to be making that call.
No. And like I said, I'd prefer not to see your gravel cycling get to an early retirement.
Right.
So.
Yeah. But I do have to say, I want to thank everybody, that reached out and text me and asked if I was okay. They all, I have athletes that were following me, and they were all, following you too. And they would see Danny's time splits, and they, and then they didn't see mine, and they're like, what happened? And so of course I spent, like, after I got back to Emporia, I spent when I was waiting there and I was starting to feel okay, I started reaching back out and letting them know that I was okay, and to not worry that, I got it taken care of, and I'm better now. But
well, like I said, I know my wife was following us as well, and she was worried about you. She's like, I was going to message him on Facebook, but I didn't know if he would get it. And I'm like, it's fine. It's fine. But
I mean,
everybody's worried
that's
about
what we do. We do these things. They're hard.
Yeah.
And like, you never know. Like, it easily. We saw a pro female rider just laying in the ditch because she broke her arm, and like her face was all cut up. A couple of pro male riders walking back. A bunch of them, like even Keegan Swinson hit the deck. So like, it's a hard course. It's not uncommon to crash on this course.
Well, and I go back to, the course was so fast. There were some hidden spots, like in the shadows and stuff, where with my glasses, thank goodness, like my bike kept it together, because there were some spots that were really sketchy that I probably should have blown a couple of tires out. But good call, man. Glad you made it, and you'll get redemption on part of that course here in a couple of weeks when we go back.
We'll
for
be going
Rock
back
Ridge.
there. It'll be hotter.
Yeah,
so don't worry about
that's
it.
Right.
I'll be tearing it up. We're gonna be riding all that stuff. So it's all good.
Awesome. Anything else you got for the wrap up here?
No. Awesome. No. Everything was good. I think. I'm just super impressed with Danny's ride. He just crushed it, man. I had hopes that you were gonna kind of rally there at the end.
Yeah.
And maybe you were doing the math to be almost around sub 13.
But then
I saw the next split after Koala Hill, and I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
He's tired.
Yeah. Sub 13 is very possible for me. Like I said, I really think the last 4 weeks, if I'd gotten good solid training in, it's possible. I would have needed a little bit more luck and help along the way, but it would have been possible. With everything said and done, I'm happy with the result. I could not be more happy with it. So now next year, South Course, there's no comparisons because it's probably going to be a different route than what we did a few years back. But I'm looking forward to it. As soon as that route comes out, and be figuring out the plan for that one.
We've ridden a lot of the roads out
That's
there
right.
too.
That's
so
right.
It's going to be good.
Yep.
So I can't wait.
Awesome.
Awesome, man. All right. Suffer complete.
Thank you for listening to this episode. Please, if you like what we are doing here, leave a like, rate us, comment, subscribe, and share with your friends. It really helps us grow and finds us more SufferSooner squad mates. And remember, when the finish line feels impossibly far away, we don't give up, we push harder, we dig deeper, and we find solace in the knowledge that our suffering is temporary and our resilience is forever.